Hey, not so sneaky, Jordan School District. We see what you're doing there. A mom's worry over not just one cell tower nuzzled up to the elementary school is getting her what she says is the runaround.
It's 9:59. Stick around, but first, news, traffic, and weather.
Dave and Dujanovic.
All right, here we go.
A new conversation on KSL News Radio 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
When I saw the picture on social media, I thought this has got to be a joke. What in the world is going on in this Jordan School District at Jordan Ridge Elementary School that they have two super tall cell phone towers nuzzled right up against the school? Dave, have you seen the picture yet? Let me pass it to you, my friend. We're going to we put it on Twitter at D2KSL. One of those towers is disguised as a flagpole. How many calls are those kids making?
Very thick flagpole.
Suspiciously thick.
To the future of education in Utah. We pay the worst, but you'll have great cell service.
Dave, a flagpole disguising a cell phone tower. It's on the KSL News Radio app right now. Does that feel sneaky to you?
I think it looks creative. Like, hey, we got this super ugly silver thing. What can we use it for? I don't know.
Both of those are so tall. Look at that
ginormous American flag.
Compared to there's not even an American flag hanging on the picture that I'm seeing. It's some little tiny. I don't even know if that's a Utah flag. I can't tell. But there's this one tower on the left. It's white. It looks like a flagpole, and then you've got the other ginormous tower right next to the school. It's what? So, I mean, it's bad enough that these cell phone towers, that they try to disguise them as trees in the forest. Have you ever seen one of those?
Never have.
Dave, I have. And it's like, oh, there's a cell phone tower disguised as a tree. No.
What, did you think it would actually look like a tree?
It just looks all plasticky. So we dialed up a Utah mom who's been just really outspoken about this. And she talked to us yesterday. Her daughter will go to school there in the next couple of years. She's a young mom, a young little girl, but she's concerned about two cell phone towers at her daughter's future schools. So we talked to Rebecca Blatnick by phone, and she says she's asking over and over, what in the world is the school district thinking?
I think it's sneaky to have a cell tower that looks like a flagpole. I think that's disgusting, because then people don't know that you have two. If they're so safe, why do you have to disguise it? If you feel comfortable with putting up cell towers at a child's elementary school, why disguise them as a flagpole? It's probably because the community will push back.
So there are two cell phone towers at that school.
Yeah,
is that okay?
Totally fine.
You're fine with that?
Because cell phone towers don't cause cancer. I mean, the science is in on this. So is it aesthetically pleasing? No, cell phone towers are ugly. They're big silver rods that are just stuck in the ground, and they're not very attractive. So are they trying to be sneaky, or are they trying to just make it look less ugly? I think they're going for less ugly.
I'm not sure that. I don't think that's pretty. I wouldn't say that's a pretty flagpole.
They're trying something.
Oh, okay. The district says they've had cell towers at schools for 20 years. They replied to an email I sent them, and they said they've been there for 20 years. And they've got them in 35 schools. We're talking about the Jordan School District specifically. So cell phone towers for 20 years in 35 schools, and they bring in between $8,000 and $18,000 a year, and they pass that money right back to the schools. So we asked Mom Rebecca, what do you think about that?
I don't think it's worth the cancer risks to get that money. I don't care if they were making a lot of money. It's not worth the risk, They get a lot of taxpayer money. Why can't they make that money work? Or why can't we do community fundraisers for the school? If they need new computers or something. So
18 grand a year at most. Does that move the needle for you, Dave? Well, that's a lot of money, right?
She said that there's a cancer risk.
We're going to talk about that more.
There's not a cancer risk. I mean, that's her belief. She's certainly entitled to her opinion, and if she doesn't want her kids to go there, she doesn't have to send her kids there. But the fact is, they've been there for a long time. There's no science that says, no reasonable science that says that they do cause cancer. So, yeah, if you can raise some money for the school, you're not using that area. Is it a blight? Is it ugly? Well, our schools largely are not beautiful.
How do we know they're structurally sound? I don't. I'm just asking that. How do we know that?
Because
who's
we would
checking?
be covering it.
Who's checking? Well, but we
would be covering
I don't know
that story.
I don't know if we'd be driving by there and know. I'm just saying, as parents, how do we know who's checking on those? And that's one of the questions that she's been kind of digging around on. How do we know? And so she's been asking all kinds of questions about these 2 cell phone towers at her kid's school, and it's Jordan Ridge Elementary School, and it's in the Jordan School District. And she's just wanting some answers. That's all, Dave. She's new to the area, moved in there. These things have been there 20 years. There's a whole new wave of parents who have moved to the community, and guess what they have? All kinds of new questions, and I'm all for it. There needs to be transparency. But getting a straight answer for her has felt ridiculous. Listen to what she's gone through from the first time she reached out to somebody in the district for answers.
She just said that she would look into my concerns and talk to her superior. I haven't heard anything back about it. I've contacted her superior, and she said she wouldn't email me, that I had to call her. So I've called her a few times. She hasn't gotten back to me. She said her assistant was looking into it. Her assistant hasn't gotten back to me. The board members, only one of them got back to me, 2 of them got back to me, and one of them, the president of the board, was pretty defensive about these towers.
So it just takes contact, email, phone calls to get answers over something that's so obvious. They're sitting right by the school. Why are these 2 cell phone towers there? Why is one disguised as a flagpole? Are they safe? How do you know they're safe? That's it. Should it take that many phone calls? I think that's what is frustrating to a lot of parents who send their kids to school. They get caught up in a lot of red tape.
Well, I think you're criticizing it because the reason they're not getting back to her is because it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue. That it may be something that's important to her individually, but this is not something that they deem urgent or important, because obviously there's not an educator in the world that would say, hey, let's stick this cancer stick in the center of our school, because we can make an extra $18,000.
So we should not ask. We should just determine whether it's a non-issue, and then if we determine asking our neighbor, do you think this is an issue? We should not call on our elected officials to give us some sort of insight into. Give me an idea of how this got there in the first place. It's been 20 years. How do we know it's sound? How do we know? We shouldn't be asking those.
No,
okay.
Because you can answer this on your own. You can go online and you can Google it. You can check out the American Cancer Society. You can do the research.
And
are cell phone towers safe?
And that's exactly what the school district center is, the link to the American Cancer Society, which says studies show it's safe. And they sent her a brochure from a cell phone company.
All things
saying
that she
it's
could
safe.
have done.
But she's saying, well, it's just from the cell phone company. And I'm not sure. I wanted to know how the district is making the decisions that they're making to rent space on school property for cell phone towers. I don't think it's a tough question.
Well, it's you're tying the two. Are you concerned about the aesthetics of it, or are you
structural
concerned
safety of it?
Why would you worry about the structural safety of it? You're not. I bet she's not asking.
Maybe she filed. I think it's because she filed. She went after that, got records back that concerned her about the structural safety of it. So she's just asking some questions.
Is she asking about the structural safety of the walls? I just think that there's a lot of things we can. I
think she raises some excellent point. I don't see why it's so difficult to get the straight answer.
I don't think if your concern is, are these dangerous? Are they a cancer risk? You can Google that. That's a pretty simple search. You don't need anybody from the school district to answer that.
And she did Google it. Next, the national story about a school in California. It was covered by CBS News this month. Several mysterious cases of cancer, and now the cell phone company in California has pledged to move its tower away from the school. That story next.
It's 10:15. Stick around. You're listening to Dave Noriega and Debbie Dujanovic here on KSL News Radio. We're back in 3 minutes.
Dave and Dujanovic. One of them is streetwise.
If you had the opportunity to get tax rebates driving an electric car, wouldn't you take advantage of that?
One is a wise guy.
Well, some days we'll have rice, some days we'll have ramen.
Oh, my goodness.
There's flavoring packets.
And that is a new conversation. Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Oh my goodness, a cell phone tower disguised as a flagpole at Jordan Ridge Elementary School stopped me in my tracks about a week ago, Dave. And I finally got in touch with parents in the area, Jordan Ridge Elementary in the neighborhood, who are concerned that they've got two super tall cell phone towers nuzzled up against the school, one disguised as a flagpole. How many calls are those kids making out there?
All the calls. I mean, do you not know these kids in this generation? All they do is make phone calls all day, every day. And mostly they're answering phone calls from their parents that are calling them in the middle of class.
I have other pictures I'm holding here, Dave. Look at this cell phone tower disguised as a palm tree.
Nice.
I see what you've done there.
Yeah.
How about this one in the middle of nowhere, sticking out of a forest, disguised as a pine tree?
There you go. Hey, at least they're trying something. We can agree on this. Cell phone towers are ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Those big silver monstrosities, they're ugly. Anything you can do to fancy it up, make it look a little less ridiculous, I'm all for.
So Mom Rebecca Blatnick, when I talked to her yesterday, she has been beating the bushes for weeks, asking for answers from school and city officials. Like, why in the world are there two cell phone towers on school property? And when is enough, even if it is disguised as a flagpole?
Are they going to limit it at 2, or are they going to add like 3 or 4 or 5? Is there a limit? How many cell towers are they going to put up at these schools?
I asked the Jordan School District in an email yesterday. I'm waiting to hear back from them. What is the limit at your schools? Can you put 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? And at what point do parents say, okay, 1's enough, 2's enough? We don't want any.
Yeah, I am more concerned about being able to get a signal out. That's where my frustration comes, is whether I'm at a stadium or I'm at the school, because there is a lot of people, there's a lot of kids, and all of them have cell phones. So the parents that are like, hey, this is unbelievable, this is terrible, this should never happen. Does your kid have a cell phone? Well, if they do, then they have to have a cell phone tower. Now, you're fine with it as long as it's not in your backyard or it's not in your kid's school. They've got to put it somewhere, right?
Well, the district sent her. We're talking about Mom Rebecca Blatnick, who is speaking out about these two cell phone towers at her future elementary school, where she'll eventually send her child to. What gives? 2? 1 disguised as a flagpole? So they sent her a company flyer, a cell phone company flyer, when she asked about the safety and possible cancer links or discussions about, is there a problem? And then they also sent her a link to the American Cancer Society page saying, oh, it's safe. But then she starts reading other studies, Dave, that get her really worried about cancer and kids and exposure to radio frequency, RF. And then, like you said, she Googled it. And she sees this story that aired this month out of California. It was on CBS National News.
The phone company Sprint shut down a cell phone tower on the campus of a California elementary school after some parents said it may be linked to several recent cases of childhood cancer. Now, those families at Weston Elementary School in Ripon claim the tower could have exposed their kids to harmful radiation. Sprint says the tower is safe and has operated well below federal safety limits, but the company turned it off anyway and plans to move it to a new location.
So that raises new red flags for her. Is there new information out there that, and we're just regurgitating old studies and saying it's safe, but is there new information? The more we get into cell phone uses and more towers we start to build, and particularly near elementary schools, is there something that needs a second look?
This is the problem with the anti-vaxxer crew. They don't like the answer, so they look for alternative answers. They look for other studies, and then they pull in studies Because, again,
this is
of
a
course,
national news story, CBS News. I
Yeah,
mean, you
they
and
moved-
I have been in the media for, we always say 50 years combined. We know what it takes to get a story on television. This was a story that airs on the CBS National News.
and what did they say? They moved it.
They moved the tower.
They moved it not because it was dangerous. They reiterated that it fell well below federal safety standards. But let's not pretend for a second that there's not a PR element to this. Oh, well, if you think it is, I can't have my Sprint cell phone tower being blamed and being protested against. I will move it. Now, is this a PR move? 100%. Otherwise, you'd be moving every single tower in the entire country if you thought it was really dangerous.
Well, instead of looking at this through a PR firm's eyes, Dave, I'm going to look at it from a mother's perspective.
My son missed growing up with his friends. My son lost all of his hair. It's not something that I wish on anybody, to watch their child go through what our children have gone through.
Kelly Prime's son Kyle was just 10 years old when he was diagnosed with kidney cancer in 2016. 5 months later, Kyle's friend and classmate Mason Ferrulli developed brain cancer.
14 hours to get the tumor out, and he had 5 weeks of inpatient rehabilitation. He had to learn to walk, talk, eat, everything all over again.
So after reports of 7 cases of cancer between teachers and students at that one elementary school in California, CBS News does this report, and Sprint, the cell phone company, says, we're going to move the tower. I think parents are willing to fight for what they think is right, Dave, whether the science says one thing or another. And if they feel like 2 cell phone towers at that elementary school is too much, or they want to know what the limit is for the Jordan School District and how many cell phone towers they're going to pull in to one day after the summer break, I think parents deserve to know that answer.
You just made the exact argument that the anti-vaxxers are using. It's the exact
Do not
argument.
lump me in with the anti-vaxxers.
It's the
ever.
same argument.
Ever.
How's the argument different? That you think
Don't lump me in with that, Dave.
That the investigation or the science that you saw, it doesn't go along with your beliefs.
All I'm asking is, what's the policy for how many cell phone towers can go up there? I can't ask that. I can't ask how many towers can be in my kids' on my kid's school playground. I can't
absolutely.
ask. So that makes me an anti-vaxxer, or lumps me in with that same crowd.
You said that I think there needs to be studies. We need to look into this. This seems...
I want them to know how many... I want them to be able to get the answer to this question. How many cell phone towers do you allow at my kid's elementary school?
Because... finish that sentence. Is it because at some point they are going...
Maybe I don't want them to be beholden
cancer?
to a cell phone company. Maybe I don't think it's necessary. Maybe I think it's a horrible eyesore, even if it is disguised as a cactus or a flagpole.
Yeah, my worry is...
Maybe I don't think there needs to be 2. Maybe I want to make sure that somebody's checking how structurally sound it is to make sure the thing is okay.
Yeah, my concern is if they're tying it into cancer where there isn't the science, there isn't the data. If you don't like it because of some other reason, whether it's safety or structure, I refuse to say, okay, well, if one cell phone tower is safe but 2 is not because 2 causes cancer, well, there's no data, there's no science that says that. And if you're saying, well, if 2 is okay but not 3 or 4 or 5, again, where's the data that says that? And I'm very hesitant to start drawing lines or parallels that say, well, you know what? If there were more, then that would cause cancer. We just don't know that.
Next, Dave and I are going to take a walk around the block and cool down because he just made me so mad.
and coming up next, D&D Differ. Yeah, no,
we're going into Dave
and
Debbie Differ. Oh my goodness! Amazon admits it hires workers to listen to your chats with Alexa. I am sick about it, as you might imagine. Dave could care less. That's next.